Welcome back on a Monday night is God's Comic. Brad Stine. This is Brad Stine Has Issues where comedy, conservatism, and Christianity collide in a cacophony of clarity. Tonight's special guest, do you suffer with sexual addiction? Well, Nate Larkin sure did, and he's going to tell you how to overcome it. And yes, this is R-rated, NC-17. So this is, if you are a soccer mom driving your soccer children to soccer practice, listening to Salem podcast life audio, this might be a time for either you to pull over and let your children walk the rest of the way, or have the talk with them. But this is some serious adult conversation. It's important. It's incredible. It's the way all Christian talk should be: pure, real, authentic, exposing everything that we deal with and how God can get you through it. But it's raw, baby, just like the Bible's raw. I mean, I'm telling you, if you've ever read the Song of Solomon, it's all about having sex. So it's in the Bible. Wyatt, you're my son, and had I not taken the Bible literally, and when it came to procreation, you wouldn't be here. But you are, thanks to me and your mother. So I don't know. If you want to say you're grateful, you want to thank me in any way, feel free.
Okay. I'll feel free whenever I feel like it.
If you don't, though, you don't have to. That's for dang sure.
I know I don't have to. Trust me, I've been exercising that fact.
I know it. I know it. Well, listen.
Hey, by the way, have you gotten the YouTube to work? Or do I need to come over there?
No. I figured out how to do it. I found where it was playing live. I had to switch it to a different area than the one you had me. But I don't expect your tech to support to ever show up anymore, because it doesn't. Now, and I'm down to 5%. So I might this might crash and burn. But I told him I was going to dock him his pay if this ever happens again. And it's going to happen. So I'm kind of wishing for it.
No, it's not. You need to have the power of believing.
Well,
I believe it will last this long.
We'll find out. Listen, White, I got to tell you something. I am very, very excited about this guest. Nate Larkin is somebody that I've known for many, 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 many years. He was involved in the God Men men's events that I was putting on back in like 2008 and so forth and so on. And his story is, it's pretty raw, but it's helpful, Wyatt, to men. I don't know if you know this or not, Wyatt, but men struggle with pornography.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So with that in mind, people first off have to understand that this is very much a guy question. But here's one of the things we found out in this interview, White. Women are now starting to really grow in the pornography, what do you call it, addiction. Women are now trying to climb the ranks and join men in equality by being stuck in this addiction that can be so difficult for men to escape, but apparently women want to jump into. And you know what it is, White? It's because they want to be equal.
Is that your official answer to why that's the thing? That's the only thing you can think of?
What else would it be?
Fair enough. I honestly don't have an answer for this.
I know.
It could be anything, really. Just boredom, curiosity.
Yes.
A combination of both. Boringosity.
Look how empathetic you are to these women, addictors.
Is that the word for it? Addictors?
Addictivists?
I mean, if you got activists, I guess addictivists. So is this the natural progression of it?
I think so. People that are protesting their addiction are addictivists.
Yeah. The what now?
The people that protest that you're shaming them for addiction are addictivists.
So is that like addicted to addiction?
Yes. What are you saying? You judging them, Wyatt?
Yeah, I'd say I am actually judging them. Yeah.
Do you believe in judging people, Wyatt?
I mean, I never went to law school personally, but I exercise that right all the time. Yeah.
Do you believe that would be an interesting form of livelihood, as being an attorney or a judge or I don't know.
Interesting. It kind of depends. If we're like a corporate judge or attorney, I mean, who knows the kind of stuff they try to pull?
You mean like contracts and
or just like a big business lawyer. Like I can't imagine the mindset you'd have to be in to look at a company that's like, we're going to fire everyone and offshore everything to Mexico to save money.
Right.
And then the lawyer's like, well, I guess I have to defend this.
Right.
Let's see how this goes. Like, what kind of mindset do you need to have to look at that and go, yes, this is the job for me?
You're talking about a defense attorney,
Not really
a
a defense
prosecuting
attorney. No,
attorney.
not really a defense. Well, I guess, defense attorney.
Yeah.
But, like, to me, that's been the kind of attorney that I never understood, like, how
Because
that's a
it's
thing.
unethical?
To me it is, and obviously to them it isn't. Or if it is, they don't care. But how do you not care? Like,
Well, let me tell you a story that reminds me of what you are babbling about. And let's be honest, it's intelligent babble,
I'm
but babble
sorry. I am
nonetheless.
trying to have a deep conversation with you and the audience about something that I genuinely am curious about.
Yeah, but you missed it by a mile. But no.
How did I
The
miss it? How did I
conversation you
miss
nailed.
it at
the
all?
conversation you've nailed. The deep part you got it nowhere near.
What do you mean the deep part?
Because you were confused. You didn't even know where to. You didn't even know it was the defense attorney that you were having problems with.
Yeah.
The guy that
but I knew
defends
that
the
a lawyer
the guy
was
that
the
killed
issue.
somebody.
Listen, the lawyer part is the issue. What they decide to do with that is up to them.
Okay,
I'm just singling out one example.
Well, listen, and I understand. I agree. Now, here's what you're going to unfortunately have to come to grips with.
Okay.
So, many years ago, I was watching a debate, and Alan Dershowitz was one of the debaters. Okay, and he's a liberal. Not progressive, an actual old school liberal. He'll let people have different points of view. He is happy to engage. He tries to use logic and reason. Whatever wins the day, that wins the day. He believes in actual in the republic and in the process of the people choosing it. So he's a liberal, which is not a problem. I don't agree with their point of view, but at least they let me have a point of view, whereas the progressive left do not let conservatives have a voice at the table, or Christians, because both of those ideas, conservatism and Christianity, are true, and nothing is more fearful to the left than truth and light, because they are exposed. But I will never forget this, okay, because... and by the way, Alan Dershowitz is, I was in his home, his apartment in New York, I think he's in Long Island, but anyways, is in his apartment with all of his artwork and expensive goods. This guy has defended everybody. I think he was involved with Klaus Schwab, maybe. Was it Klaus Schwab? The guy that was accused of killing his wife. But I think OJ he was involved with. Anyways, this guy's high profile, made lots and lots of money. And the pro-Israel documentary I did a few years ago called Boycott This, Alan was one of the guys that I interviewed. So, he's very famous lawyer and taught law for many years at Harvard. Have you ever heard of Harvard, Wyatt? Law school? Harvard?
Is that like a community college?
It's a community college, yeah.
Probably just one of those basic ones that you get into when nobody else wants to.
Mostly it's done online. You're done by noon. Yeah. So, yeah.
I guarantee you that the professors are like the people that come in the class 2 minutes before it ends, like, oh, sorry, I forgot we're doing this today.
Yeah, just go to this link and I'll
here's the
watch my
syllabus.
lecture I did 10 years ago.
Yeah, here's the syllabus, see it in the finals, bye.
That's it. Well, anyways, so he's famous, right? And so it's like, wow, I'm about to interview this guy who has really good chops when it comes to arguing a point of view, clearly, right? I mean, he's teaching Harvard, the highest at one point. I mean, Harvard has gone woke, so it's completely obliterated. It's worthless now. It's worthless. It should be bankrupt into oblivion. But for a time, it had great remember, it was started by Christians, as virtually every university in the United States was started by Christians. So, and then, of course, the left takes it over and takes the edifice, and they turn it into a crap hole, and then claim that it still has value. But anyways, that's not the story I wanted to get to. The story I wanted to get to, Wyatt, was I was listening to him on this debate. And I just remember he was talking about, I guess, ethics, right? Because he's a defense lawyer. And you have to understand about these guys. They're not, they don't believe in God. He's a secular Jew. He's a Jew and supports Israel and his heritage, but doesn't believe in God, I don't believe. Certainly not Orthodox Jew or celebratory of theism. But he made a statement that stuck out. He said something about some of the effect they are saying, well, what is good and bad? What is this? Trying to find a moral, ethical standard. And he goes, well, I don't know. It was something, I might miss this, but you'll get the gist. I don't know what right is, but I know what wrong is. And wrong is blah, blah, blah. And he went off on this thing. And I remember just thinking, you just said you don't know what right is or what is good, but I know what bad is. It was something like either right and what is wrong, or what is good, or, well, I don't know what that is, but I don't know what bad, but I do know what bad is. And I just remember thinking to myself, okay, you teach the next generation of lawyers at the highest ranked and rated school of law in the United States, maybe in the world, top 10 in the world, Harvard Law School. And you just said, I don't know what, I can't tell you, what right is, but I can tell you what wrong is. It was one of those, ways, like I said, I'm sorry, I'm babbling about not knowing which one it is, but it was important because the point was the opposite of what he said he couldn't land on because he was more relativistic about it. Suddenly he could tell you that. And it's like, I remember thinking to myself, speaking to the radio, probably yelling at the radio, and you know me. Well, how can, if you don't know what right is, you can't know what wrong is. If you don't know what one half of this dichotomy is, you can't get the other half. It don't work like that. So there is no truth. It's all relativistic. But let's go where the bad stuff is, because that we can land on. No, you can't. You either believe in truth, transcendent, immutable truth, which lends itself to expose what is untrue, or you don't believe in anything and quit defending these guys because there's no truth. But here's what they do, Wyatt. They believe in that because they've abandoned God, their religion is to defend the downtrodden, to defend those who have not had, maybe can't afford or can't, have access to good legal representation. And so to them, they're doing something virtuous. They're doing something noble. They're doing something moral. Okay, that's what makes them feel good about themselves. So they will look at this guy who's the mass murderer and say, listen, who am I to judge this guy? I know he killed all these, raped all these women, killed all these children, but got to make sure that he constitutionally is protected and nothing was breached because he at least needs to be done fairly. And so to them, that is an ethical stance. I don't know how you could live with your conscience. If you knew somebody was guilty, and let's face it, they do. They know some of these guys are guilty, and their entire job at that point is to simply try to see if they can get them off because they feel like as long as you didn't do it properly by the book, then I get them off. I'm ethical, irrespective of the fact that I got them off of a crime that they committed and murdered and killed other people. They don't care. Their purpose is to make sure that the law in their constitutionality is held sacred, and if they can get you off, hey, you should have done better, prosecution. So that's how they justify it. That's how they live with themselves, and it's hard. Yeah.
So I mean, it's interesting, but that's a criminal defense.
Yeah.
I'm more interested in the corporate one. Like, for instance, here's an example.
Okay.
AI. Currently, there are, issues people are having with corporations that use AI to, you know what I'm talking about, right? Like generative AI. You ask your computer, make me a picture
artificial insurrections?
No, but you got the acronym.
Anatomical insight?
Artificial intelligence.
Okay.
Specifically, generative artificial intelligence. Basically, you type something into the computer, like, I want a picture of 3 birds flying in the sunset, and the computer's like, here you go. So the issue people are having is that the way that the AI model works is the companies just scan the internet for any pictures or information, feeds it to this algorithm, and then the algorithm sort of uses that to sort of conglomerate into a picture. So when you ask for a picture, it's just like, okay, I know what that is. You fed me 1,000 pictures of a bird, so here you go. The problem is
They hybridize all the pictures and make a new one out of it?
not necessarily. It's more like it's like learning arithmetic. Like you quiz yourself, and then you get better at seeing the patterns, and then eventually you can start doing it yourself. You know?
Okay.
The problem is what happens when that AI or when those AI companies start, say, taking pictures of some private artist's work, feeds it into them, and is now able to basically make money printing images that were only there because they took from this small-time artist.
That would be called plagiarism.
You would think.
Copyright
You would
infringement.
think. But
Intellectual property stealage.
you would think. However, these AI companies would beg to differ, and their lawyers certainly do too.
Okay.
How do you justify that?
You don't?
Can that be justified? What mindset do you have to have as a corporate lawyer to be like, I know this is wrong. This has to be wrong. I don't care as long as they get paid. Who cares?
You're right.
Is that the mindset?
Yeah.
Or do these people, to some degree, genuinely believe the lies that they're feeding people?
No, they don't care. They have no morals. Wyatt, when you get rid of God, you replace him with yourself and your own perspective. Hey, I don't care as long as I get rich and power. What do you think is happening in America? And the corruption, the deep, deep, deep corruption of Washington, D.C. and the Republicans and the Democrats, that all they want is power, and they got it, and they ain't giving it up, and they will destroy everything they can. They don't care as long as they get a piece of the action. This is what happens when you abandon God. You lose everything. There's no morals, there's no ethics, there's no virtue, there's no courage, there's nothing to stand for, there's nothing to fight for. And so it's all about you. It's systemic narcissism. As I said many times, I think I coined that phrase, Wyatt. Systemic narcissism. Now, granted, an AI search will have somebody else put it on a poster, systemic narcissism, and I won't get credit because I'm saying it right now, and it's now on the internet, and an AI is searching right now and saying, that's a good phrase.
I was going to say, I swear I saw it on a T-shirt, like just the other day.
Yeah. Was it AI generated by any chance?
Oh, of course. It was one of those, cat hanging from a tree, but like saying hanging there, but instead it was... It was systemic narcissism, which I thought was kind of weird, but I was considering it more like an artistic liberty.
Right. I think you're right. I think they're just saying if we combine two iconic pictures and a new coined iconic phrase together, it's different. It's really
I'll tell you
different.
what, it definitely made me stop and look at it for a second.
Indeed. Talk about stopping and looking at something. I got some good news for you, son. Have you
The iPod's still not dead?
What?
The iPad's not dead? Is that
No,
what
but
you
it's down to 3%. So
Hey, 3% ain't 0%,
so you better
pal.
pray to God.
Hey, 3% ain't 0%. We're still in this.
You're still under. You're about 3% away from losing a whole lot of money.
Yeah,
Anyways,
but you guess what? You're 3% away from losing out on this content about us discussing the battery percentage.
Indeed.
So how's to that?
no, I understand. It's a good try, but nevertheless, I've got some great news. So, the people are building this podcast into something tremendous. I don't know how much you knew, but this thing is absolutely blowing up now that we are on Salem. Now that now I will say that it's the archived versions are watched and shared much more than the live, because a lot of people don't have time on a Monday night to sit and watch us, except for people like Ashley Haas. Get ready for some issues. Happy Monday, everyone. Hi, Brad and Wyatt. Ashley Haas. That must be a new viewer.
I saw on the news she was a corporate lawyer trying to argue that AI companies can steal our stuff for free. Yeah.
Well, how about that? Hey, Gianna Sizemore's here. Hi, Brad and White. Jim Bronaugh showed up. Doesn't have a photo. Hey, Brad and White. Always, I just know it's going to be a great show. You better believe it is. Gianna Sizemore comes back and says, I always enjoy your show. We weren't saying you didn't. We didn't say you didn't. Why she's always complaining? I know, she's just always nagging us. Joyful Notes 83, good evening. DNA Diverted, happy Monday. I don't know who that is. I'm just some guy. That's Nick Kress, who has failed miserably in regaining his status as Saint Nick, always in front. What happened to him? How did Ashley Haas, who just jumped on for the first time, I think, suddenly outplay Saint Nick?
Here's what I'll say. You keep focusing on Saint Nick the person.
Right.
I care about Saint Nick the idea.
Oh,
The concept.
The concept.
That one person who's always here first.
Do you know there's-
always with us every step of the way.
there is one person who Monday nights, this is the highlight. Guess who his name is?
I have honestly forgotten.
Aaron Oaks.
Aaron Oaks.
Paula Faye
Yep,
Marie
I can't
Rauchy,
forget
greetings
that
from Florida City. Paula Faye Marie Rauchy, she came out and saw a show in Tampa when I was there. She's my favorite what, son?
Newly reclaimed for
For a named lady. That's it.
Yeah.
Dusty, I guess. Hello, friends. Let me think.
How's that battery? How's that battery?
There's Gianna Sizemore telling us what she's eating. Dinner's about done. Hush puppies, pea salad, and chicken. Haas.
okay.
This woman eats like a queen. Send us some food for crying out loud.
We are still waiting for our Canton.
Wyatt.
I just want to point that out.
No, that's from like Denmark or something.
Those from like 18 months ago.
No, it was like reindeer.
Oh, yeah, shoot, it was reindeer.
Okay.
So, how's the battery?
Oh, it's at 3%.
3%, folks, we're still in it.
You got about 20 minutes or you're dead. Hi, Brad. Hi, Wyatt. Hi, all my friends. That's Cabo. That's who's Cabo. Cabo. Who is she?
I don't know.
Karen Boyd. God almighty, son. Let's see. Sweet corn on the cob. You need the power adapter. Oh, yeah. Nick Kress came to your rescue. He said, hey, just plug it into the power adapter. You'll save yourself some dough.
I understand that. In fact, what's going to happen is if it gets to 1%, I'm just going to sneak in and plug it into the computer so it never dies.
Maybe.
So you see, maybe this
or
entire
maybe
thing
I'll
was
just
adding suspense.
Or maybe I'll just hang on to it. Like,
Oh, I think that's cheating, though. Is that cheating, folks?
no,
In the
there
audience?
is no cheating on my podcast. It's mine. Danny Herring's here. She escaped the Trudeau apocalypse enough to show up. Hello, Brad and Wyatt and the Mighty 10,000 family. Happy to be tuning in this Monday night. Happy to have you, Danny. And, of course, Ashley says hi, Danny. She loves her to death. Carrie Tudor showed up. Hey, all. Missed you all whole week, this week long. Let me think anybody that I haven't said hi to. The Bushquacker shows up. Good evening, everyone. Glad to see you all again. There are Bushquackers always talking to Ashley and Carrie. Danny Herring saying hi to everybody. K-Boy. One of the main reasons I got as far as taking the LSATs for law school and decided I couldn't live like that. So Karen Boyd understands the dilemma, and she wouldn't compromise her character, son,
Not
unlike
even for
you.
that lucrative six-figure salary that would have settled for life. Nope, not even for that.
I also didn't want those type of people to be my colleagues. I don't think she spelled colleagues special. That might be another reason she didn't finish law school, doesn't know how to spell. Carrie Tudor says, love to everyone. Brad and White, first will be last, last be first. That's Carrie Tudor. She's right. She's given us a biblical acclamation. Let's see. K-Boy. By the way, love my sort of alma mater. Only have 2 credits from Harvard, but I hate what they've become. So now Karen's showing up doing a humble brag by saying she was on Harvard. That's not like the Karen that used to show up on Facebook. What has happened to her that she's such a braggadocio?
I'm just confused why she thinks it's bragging to say that she went to a local community college.
Oh,
Remember?
yes,
Harvard,
yeah.
the community college?
Oh, hey, by the way,
Still doing that joke, yep.
Karen said that all the prayers appreciated. Her area is possibly flooding. So, this is the kind of stuff we got to pray for because I don't want her to get flooded out. Do you?
No, of course not. Hey, how's that battery, by the way?
Oh, it's down to 2%.
2%? Oh, gosh. Oh, no, it's in milk percent, folks. We got to hurry.
Listen to me. Listen to me. This is important. Somebody just mentioned the Mighty 10,000. Well, guess what? To be part of the Mighty 10,000, it only costs you $3 a month to get all the extra content, all of my comedy, all the extra content from the guests, yeah? But you can also upgrade to the Special Forces. And that's what Jason Sutherland did. He's one of the Special Forces, and this is his gear, and I'm going to sign it right here, ladies and gentlemen, his Mighty 10,000. Here we go. I'm doing it. Boom.
Do you even know what number he is?
Don't you?
Yeah.
What is it?
170.
Woo! Number 170 would be, boom, Jason Sutherland. Here's your hat. Coming on like gangbusters. Boom. And 170. Jason Sutherland, here's yours, so you can stick that on something. Stick it wherever you want to, is what I always said. Right, Wyatt?
You've never said that in the entire
I never
time,
have.
no.
I know. I don't know why. I feel like I lied to everybody.
Why did you lie to me so?
I know it.
And to the audience, too.
There it is. There's your Mighty 10,000 sticker, and oh.
Yep.
Boom. Boom.
Now for the big one.
Mighty 10,000. Here it
Do you
comes.
need help, like, holding that thing open?
I'm going to try it without. I'm going to try it with...
freehand it?
I'm going to
Freehand again. Okay, let's see how this works.
Here we go. Here we go.
See this
You know
fail.
what? Maybe I should put it on the Mighty 10,000 color, and then you'll be able to see it. So here we go. Boom, boom. It's kind of working. I have to kind of do it soft, and it's 1, boom, 70. I did it. I did it. I did it. I did it. Jason Tutler's got his 170. Now listen, Jason, we're going to send this out to you. Wyatt's actually taking over that thing. We're going to send it to you. When you get your shirt, wear it. Take a picture of yourself, and we will show you proudly on Brad Stine Has Issues next category. Speaking of categories.
And before we stop this segment,
Yeah.
I just want to point out that we have a few others, Mighty 10,000 Special Forces.
Yeah?
James Hunter and part of Faye Marie Rauchi.
Yeah.
We sent you your emails. We just need to know what type of, let's say, shirt you want. And
So this is brand new stuff?
Yeah.
Nice.
These ones are after Sutherland.
Oh, well.
So I just wanted to make sure that everyone knows we sent you an email. Just fill that out and send it back to us. We'll get your stuff out as soon as we get it.
That's just to get like the size of the T-shirt.
Yeah,
I
we just
think?
need to know what size of T-shirt you need and stuff.
Okay, cool.
Yeah,
cool,
but
cool.
it's important that you all know because sometimes we don't hear back from you. And
So Paula Faye Marie Rauch, my favorite four-named lady. You got to let them know they emailed you.
Yeah, I know.
Let them know what size you want, and then what's the other guy?
James Hunter.
James Hunter.
Let us know so we can get you your merch as soon as possible.
Don't forget, you also get all of my comedy for free now. You can download it and you own it now, and lots of other things.
Do they really need all your comedy albums? Isn't this podcast a joke in and of itself?
So Wyatt, you are the one that's supposed to be supporting this podcast till death do us part.
Exactly. What's your point?
Here's my point. People do not believe me when I tell them that I've been doing this for well over 30 years, since 1988. Well, around 1992. You know, last week, you guys, we had Adam Curry. Do you remember him, Wyatt? You remember Adam Curry?
I remember.
Yeah, what did they call him? Didn't he have a little nickname he threw out?
The Podfather.
Indeed. And he was also a VJ on what program?
MTV. When they still did music.
That's right. And so, MTV, there was everybody in the 90s, a comedy, let's see, Showtime had a comedy show with comics. HBO had comedy. A&E had a bunch of comedy things, Comedy on the Road, and one of them, Caroline's Comedy. I was on all these. A&E's Evening at the Improv. I was on that. This is all in the 90s. Well, one of the first ones I did was MTV's half-hour comedy hour, and it was at the Vic Theater in Chicago, Illinois. And I don't know how, this clip showed up, and it's me, and it's a long time ago, and I was trying to figure out who I was and what I was. So what I've become, Christian conservative, and using just sort of words and minds and thoughts and ideas as my mainstay, as my foundation, as who I am as a comic, that evolved over time. I was always a Christian, even during this, but I was still figuring it out, and there was a lot of energy and a lot of crazy and a lot of figuring out who I am and what I was. So you're seeing the evolution of a comic in the beginning to what I've become. But it's there. I found it, and I decided, what? Let's show them a treat. If we don't get kicked off in the next 5 minutes by showing you this and saying, hey, this is copyright infringement. I think it was VH1 or something. I don't know what it is. It was on YouTube. We're going to give it a shot. So for your watching pleasure, probably 1991 or 1992, and it starts with a little repartee with a actor, comedian who you might recognize if you like the movie Groundhog's Day and numerous others. You will recognize him. Anyways, Wyatt, just for the fun of it, let's show them what I got going. Go.
Oh, yeah, sure, it's you, man. I knew this was going to happen. It's my big break, and you're here again. I was supposed to be the new guy. It was supposed to be my show. I was supposed to be the new balding, bearded guy. It was supposed to be me, but they gave it to you, man. And who's this guy you got playing your dad? He is so phony. God, like anybody's going to believe that. Huh.
I'm sorry, was that Siegfried or Roy?
Just let me know.
This week on the MTV Weekend Special.
MTV presents the 3 R's of music television.
Thank you very much. Thanks. We've all been a terrific audience so far. We got another comedian coming out here, but I just wanted to tell you at the end of the show, don't run off. We're all going to get on buses and go down to Palm Beach and have a big blowout party there at Senator Kennedy's house. This next comedian is originally from Bremen, Indiana, and you could have seen him on Fox's Comedy Night and also on Showtime Comedy Club Network. Please say hello to Mr. Brad Stine.
Keep it going for Chris. He's funny. Look at this place. God, I love this place. People everywhere, lights, buildings for no apparent reason whatsoever. I feel like I'm in a cartoon. Spider-Man, look out. You get that? Yeah. You quit staring at my butt, Scott. It's so obvious. Look at her. Digging me. Rico. Suave. I don't know. You think I'm weird? Am I weird? Is that what it is? Am I weird? Is that what it is? Remember there's always a kid in high school that nobody liked? He didn't know why. He'd ask you, is it because I'm weird? Am I weird? Am I weird? What is it? Am I weird? How come nobody likes me? What is it? That kid was me. Sometimes I walk like this. The beauty of having your own show. You can walk like this. You got your own show? That's what I thought. Maybe it's the way you're raised. I was raised by my parents. Anybody else? I was raised by my parents. My mom was evil. She used to feed me poisonous stuff called casserole. It's a French word. It means mom didn't shop, apparently. She'd look in the fridge, anything was there. Cheese, ketchup, potato chips, casserole! One time she fed me the weirdest stuff. It was called goulash casserole. That's how you pronounce it, goulash casserole. Have you ever eaten this stuff? It's like everything's mashed up. I couldn't eat it. I felt sick. I said, I can't eat this. And Mom goes, you eat like a bird. You eat like a bird. I'm thinking, Mom, perhaps it's because you chew up my food before you give it to me. Perhaps. My dad was the same way. I thought he'd treat me different, but no, he didn't. He treated me stupid. He used to do this. Hey, son, got your nose. This never looked like anybody's nose I ever knew. If I knew a kid with a nose like this, I would have run away. Because this was frightening. I didn't understand. I thought it was some kind of game I didn't get. So I'd try to humor my dad. Every time he'd go, got your nose, I'd say, okay, got your thumb. I don't know. By the time you're 15, it's like, yeah, got your brain. There's your brain. It was weird. I thought maybe when I got older, I wouldn't have to hear stupid stuff. Wrong! How can you walk into any 7-Eleven, put your 2 items down, step back, look at the guy, and he still goes, will that be all? It's like, no. Those are the 2 things I don't want. I'll take everything else. Just got these 2 things out of the way. One less bag. What are you girls laughing at? You send us a 1-page letter at the bottom of the first page you write over with an arrow. Otherwise, we'll get confused. Paper has 2 sides? Whoa! Guys are a bunch of idiots. We're going, what do I do now? Thank God she left instructions. Paper has 2 sides. I didn't realize this. No wonder Grandma stopped in mid-sentence. She had another side. I can finish those letters. Get her out of the home, Mom. She's not senile. Quit staring at me. Hate that guy. He's always right there. I don't know. Crazy. I think if somebody's going to treat you stupid, treat them stupid back. You got to do it. Every single place I walk into that's a restaurant has a sign I can't believe. No bare feet. I'm always like, darn it. You're always out of those. God. Folks, I gotta go, but I got a problem with you people. I've been working hard up here. Wasn't it enough for you people? Never seen a crowd like this. You sweat like a pig. 8,000 billion comedians up here. What do you want me to do? Floss my nose? Oh, yeah, right. Okay. Give me one reason why you floss. Teeth, she goes, teeth. No, baby, I'm talking about nose floss. How would you people like to see something you have never seen before? I can't hear you. Well, then dig it, Chicago. I'm out of here. Good night.
Brilliant. Oh, killed. And that double wraparound, I have never seen one done with such insight.
Well, you have to start off tripling and then you just...
Yeah, but how do you do it with the flip-flop? Yes. I can't see that.
Well, you really plucked that chicken.
Yeah. Then the second callback, that was the best.
Well, if you don't do the first double sequitur...
Well, of course the double sequitur. But how do you do it with the inside?
Yes. No, you gotta go around.
Yes, and you really made the cheese sweat.
Yeah, he's...
Well, like it was... You got to keep one foot out of the dugout.
Never
time.
On the double wraparound, because the donut's never going to fit.
And no one will get it.
Are you kidding me? Yeah. Okay.
And you crew cutted that poodle.
Yeah. You know, I think we ought to go moving on. We got that big party down the road.
You guys
take care.
You really hemmed the skirt, huh? You chewed the fat. You really ate the mouse tonight, guys. Good job with y'all.
You know, Chris Elliott, I think, did his best to move on and try to find a career, but I don't know if he did it. I don't know. Maybe you've seen him in a few thousands of things, as well as all of his Letterman escapades. But that was kind of going down memory lane, folks, and I just stumbled across it, and that's what I was. I was trying to figure out this comedy thing. I've been doing it a long time, and that was different back then. Why was I brilliant though? I mean, let's face it, wasn't it just innovative?
I have certainly never seen a comedian do that before.
Let's see what the people say.
Yes, with our newly charged iPad.
Okay, hey, look, happy 21st birthday to Force. It's back up to 5%. During that commercial break, he took it out and started recharging it so he didn't lose any dough.
Hey, listen, it's called strategy, my friend. It's called strategy.
Oh, I know. Well, good for you. Listen, D-Night Verta, how caffeinated were you? He very ADHD with a lot of caffeine. That one girl has the gravity-defying bangs that haunted me in my high school yearbook. Let's see. So nose floss, yes, that was what I was famous for. Brad had big hair, but you should have seen me in. I think in the. I'll try to find it. Even at the Improv, my hair was like this long. Oh yeah. Boo 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 boo. Anything? Anybody? Super do Lord, one thing got power. show. Yeah, I guess they're not. I just want to see if anybody made much comment about it, but they really just talked about how large the women's hair was back in the 90s, and everybody that was from that area. You know, why is that? Why? Let me ask you this. You know, when you wear something like right now, whatever you're wearing, whatever you're looking like, it looks good, people like it. And 10 years from now, what you're looking like now, you're not going to want to look that way then. It's not going to be quite as cool, quite as interesting. Why would you look back on this day and 10 years later and go, what was I thinking? Why did I think that was cool? Well, it was for 10 years ago. Everybody did. Why do we do that, Wyatt? Why do we always disparage the former and try to be unburdened by what was?
Listen, back then, you walk with what you got, and then nowadays you realize how little you had.
That's right. Well, listen, I'll tell you how little I had. I'm excited about trying to get some new rants that I want to get professionally put together. That will be a new feature on Brad Stine His Issues. I told you we're going to grow this thing. And I'm trying to make it more like a TV show, something more fun for you guys, but substantive as well. And that's where I got to figure it out. Because, you know, when this whole thing started, Wyatt, it was me usually talking about pretty serious stuff. And then I realized, well, maybe somebody wants to lighten it a little bit because they've been through a whole day of everything's harsh and hard and bad. So, you know, and the interviews are always hardcore, right? They're always pretty heavy. So usually. So I just thought, you know, lighten it up as well. So anyways, guys, I'm still experimenting, but I'm looking at trying to wrap up this section in 45 minutes so we can get into the guests, so that those who want to stick around and sit through, because sometimes it's a long guest, right? Sometimes it goes longer than an hour. I want to sort of, you know, help you get through it. But I hope you guys are joining up. I hope you're sharing it. I hope you're subscribing. Hit the like button. Hit the subscribe button on this YouTube. Share it to everybody. We're growing. Let's keep it growing. Let's see if we can get into, you know, 100,000 subscribers. I'm only got like 35,000 right now, which is not so much on YouTube. But we got a ton on Facebook. We will maybe get back there soon after a few months of trying to correct the algorithms that got sideways, that made it not really profitable. And the truth is, if you can't make income to do this stuff, it won't work. Unless I get a philanthropist or you guys want to keep just giving donations, you can't keep it up. So this is what we're trying to do. Join the mighty. If you're brand new and watching this for the first time, go to bradstine.com and join the Mighty 10,000. I'm going to get your email. We're going to be able to send you newsletters. You're going to be able to know what I'm up to, where I'm going, what I'm doing. You're going to see my comedy is going to be involved in that you can watch if you enjoy what I do. We're hoping to get a brand new one up soon, and we'll see if we can find a platform to launch it. I don't know if we will, but we're going to look around for maybe some conservative platforms that might want to sort of launch the brand new material and the brand new show. If not, then who knows? Maybe we'll put it up on this. Maybe that'll be a Brad Stine Has Issues special edition, and we'll launch the brand new material. But either way, folks, I want you to just pray for us. Keep us in your prayers. Keep us supporting us. You know, so much is happening. We're getting close to this election. We don't know what's going to happen to the United States. We're seeing the West. We're seeing what's going on worldwide. Today, where we're filming today, I think it's August 5th or 6th or something like that, 2024. There was the stock market tanked. I mean, folks, we're really in a very odd time in history. We don't know how it's all going to pan out, or if it's going to pan out, or at least guys like us will be left standing and free. Time will tell. But in the meantime, I have made it very clear that Jesus Christ is our only answer, returning to God, to Christ, which so many secularists are doing that. As I've said before, when Jordan Peterson is the #1 Bible respecter right now in the last number of years, and bringing people to the Judeo-Christian ethic. When I just blanked on the guy's name. Anyways, just became a Christian. You know who I'm talking about. But, you know, we're watching people who are paying attention, realizing we need something substantive. We need to go back to the foundations. We can't do this postmodern relativism anymore. We can't act like all ideas are equal, all religions are equal. They're not. There's some that work, some that flourish, and some that don't. Some that help people become equal and love each other, even their enemies, and some that don't. And that's the difference. And so it matters. It matters how you vote. It matters how you live it. It matters who you believe. It matters what is true. And what is true is Jesus Christ is God. He proved it. He showed up. He's real. He's historical. Nobody else is. As far as coming back from the dead, Muhammad was real. Buddha was real. But they certainly didn't do miraculous things, and they definitely didn't come back from the dead. So, folks, we have this truth. This is what is going to give us a chance. But, there's a lot of people that struggle with a lot of things. And one of them is the sexual sphere. There is nothing, ladies, that has, as powerful and strong as men are, and they are stronger than you by far in virtually every arena when it comes to physical. But women have such power in the sexual arena. Men have fallen for that seducement more than probably any money, greed, power, who knows, everything that's ever made a man fall. Nothing can even come close to sex with a woman who has enticed a man to follow his desires and his lust. I mean, you guys definitely have the power in that. And this is where this pornography scenario has come in, because it diminishes women, it diminishes their value, and makes them more of a physical entity and not a spirit and something to be admired. And as I said, now women are also becoming addicted to pornography. I don't know if it's a different form or style or what draws them, because normally we think of men as being more visually attracted as opposed to women. So there's something that's causing this. But we talk about this because the man that we're about to talk to has gone through a story that you will find fascinating and just, mind-boggling. But for some of you, maybe this will be your story, or maybe you're struggling. If you're a guy, you have watched pornography, and some of you are addicted. And this is what we're going to try to give you some hope and some overcoming this. And you can. It is, like I said, it's a mature subject matter. I fear nothing as a Christian. I don't care about if my guests come on, they have language, whatever. I just talk to people really in real time and try to be as authentic as I can, which is unique for a Christian podcast for sure. And maybe if we ever make any headway, it'll be because of that authenticity. But I do want to forewarn you. I don't want you to be listening in the car, like I said, on Spotify right now, or Apple Tunes, or on Life Audio, and have your kids there, and suddenly you hear some subject matter that you don't want your kids to hear. And I understand that. So I'm forewarning you that that's the kind of stuff we're discussing. But for all of you adults watching, and you are adults watching, you're going to find this interesting. And I hope, I talked to Nate. He might show up. Sometimes, as you know, my guests will come in and say hi to you all, and you can talk to him. Ask him questions. Engage with him. He may not, but if he does, say hi. But, folks, this is what we're trying to do. Not just entertain, not just inspire, but give you hope to overcome challenges and to bring you to God first, and then to a philosophy of what is true and right and virtuous and strong. And that means disciplining yourself in every arena. And no arena needs to be more disciplined and is more difficult than sex, because it's an amazing, powerful entity. And it can easily be abused and used to destroy you. So let's see if we can get out of that. So right now, on Brad Stine Has Issues, a very, I don't want to say X-rated because it makes it sound like it's pornographic, but it's speaking of those things, but a very NC-17 version of topic and how to overcome sexual and or pornography addiction with Brad Stine, God's Comic, and my guest tonight, Nate Larkin. Enjoy. And so, the gentleman that I'm about to speak to you with, and as you view, is somebody that I do know is courageous. Trust me when I say, when you hear his story, you will know exactly what I'm referencing. Now, it's a story that he has told thousands of times by this point, so probably is second nature to him. But nevertheless, the first time I heard it, I remember really being impressed by it because it's a little raw. And for a man to speak of vulnerabilities and raw moments in his life can be tricky. But not for him. He's used it as a ministry, and it's become a very powerful worldwide ministry known as the Samson Society. And many of you, I guarantee you, will be looking it up and maybe joining after you see and hear this interview on Brad Stine Has Issues. So please, my fans and friends, welcome with me, Nate Larkin. Nathan, how are you?
I'm great.
Yeah.
Oh, and it's so good to be here. I really appreciate the opportunity.
Well, it's my pleasure, Nate, because, we met, I don't know how many years ago. It's got to have been over 10.
Oh, yeah. 15 or more.
15 years or more. And I, at that time, had been doing a lot of work with Promise Keepers. Mm-hmm. And I had, so men had gotten used to my style, and it was aggressive, and it was in your face, and it was my comedy, and you're familiar with it. And they did me 3 years in a row, 203, 4, and 5. And 6, they decided not to have me, which probably was their undoing. That's probably, yeah.
They'd still be going.
They were going gangbusters, and they didn't hear from the Lord that one time. Their fleece was wet and dry simultaneously, so they were confused.
Yeah.
And they blundered.
Yeah.
And the Lord sent locusts. So here we sit. But I took that moment. I said, well, okay, they're not using me this time. So what if I were to have my own version of a man's event? Because the guys always respond. They enjoyed what I had to say. But I think, I'm funny because I'm a comic, but I think, Nate, what they really liked was my style, that I was pretty aggressive and I hope authentic. Mm-hmm. I didn't treat them like children or like church. I treated them like men that could handle the truth and handle life and handle things.
Without a filter.
Without a filter.
Yeah.
Yeah. And our filters, when is a filter prudent? Mm-hmm. And when is a filter self-censorship out of cowardice?
Right, exactly.
Well, you tell me.
Well, that's a good question.
That's all I have. I was asking my son, should I give him the bad questions or the good ones? He said, let's try it differently. Let's use good questions just for once and see if people actually respond. But no, let's just jump right in, because I do think you're a man of intelligence and insight.
Well, let me take a swing at that question.
Yeah.
I do think that for most of, the early part of my adult life, up until age 42, when kind of stage 2 began, after I hit the wall and everything went to pieces, and I started for the first time to walk in the light, as he is in the light, so that it was possible for me now to have real fellowship with other people, and life began to change. Up until that time, my operating strategy was to be whoever I was with needed me to be.
Okay.
And to hold whatever opinion they would find acceptable and attractive. So my true self, my authentic self, got completely lost. I did build a beautiful, bright, shiny reputation. I now refer to that guy, that false self, as Saint Nate. And
you were a pastor, I think.
I was a pastor, sure. Yeah. I lasted 5 years in the ministry. We didn't get into that. But yeah. So that was my filter. My filter was, what do they want to hear? More and more these days, I hope my filter is, what's true?
Yeah. Ooh, we need that.
Yeah.
Well, there was, and I just blanked on the name of it, and I'm sure you probably know when I reference it. There was a Woody Allen movie and about a guy who became whatever he was around and literally turned into suddenly he was an Orthodox rabbi, and next thing you know, he was a strongman. I don't remember, but it just made me think of that, because that's kind of what that whole premise was he literally morphed into whatever was happening at the time, and basically seeking the prestige of that particular community.
Sure, right.
Which is what social media is, isn't it? Isn't it becoming what everybody is deciding is okay to be? And you lose you,
Right.
if there ever was one.
Mm-hmm.
And that's probably why there's so much damage, I think, to the younger people who grew up with that.
Yeah.
Because they never found a you, because there was nothing at stake. They never were going to risk anything. They were just taught, get likes, get follows,
Yes.
become something that everybody agrees with, and you literally become conformed to the culture at large and their decision as to who you're allowed to be, and how more hollow of a life can you have than never being you. But that sounds like psychotherapy and counseling and bumper stickers and this and that. Be this authentic you, and who cares what people think, and just live for yourself. And everybody says those words, but that is virtually impossible. Mm-hmm. Everybody kind of conforms to the norm because they want to fit in. They don't want to be the one that stands alone. It's awkward. It's uncomfortable. You can be banned.
Yeah.
You can be shunned.
Sure.
So I don't know. I mean, obviously, where we're about to go with your story is so specific and important. And I'm not trying to get in the weeds, but the story has a lot of layers, and part of it is, what does it mean to be you?
Yeah.
Whoever you are, what is that? Do we even know? How do we find ourselves? How do you even know?
Yeah.
And what if you don't have God? Can you still find yourself without God in a spiritual dimension? Is that even possible? Or are you missing a piece? Are you out of balance? Mm-hmm. I don't know. I'm just kind of throwing it out there, hoping one of those hooks would you grab onto and begin to fight the reel. So give me some ideas about Saint Nick. Do you feel like that came from childhood? Do you feel like...
well, absolutely. So my story is that I grew up in church. Dad was a preacher, so I didn't have any choice about being in church. Whenever the doors were open, we were there. And there were a lot of things that I wasn't good at. And I was always small for my age, nearsighted, not very athletic. But I was good at church. Mm. So I had the skills they were looking for back then. So, Bible verses, man, I had a great memory back then. Mm. I could sing, got a lot of applause and a lot of affirmation, and was told from a very early age that I was going to be a preacher like my dad. And I knew that was true. Now we never talked about porn or sex or anything like that at home or at church, which in itself sent a very strong message. This is not something we're ever going to talk about or can talk about. Nobody warned me that porn even existed.
And it was not quite as accessible in the 60s as now.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
But when I got my first look at a Playboy magazine, because that was what porn was back in the day, at the age of 10, shortly after my mother had died. So I was in a very vulnerable emotional state. Just the sight of it, the shock of it, it just took me by surprise and right away hooked me deep. Now, I was entering puberty, so there were chemical things going on in my brain. I was, but I knew I had to hide it. I had a sense that it was wrong. I knew it was wrong. I didn't know why it was wrong. And today, when I talk to high school kids and college kids, I have to make the case that porn is bad. We could spend an hour on that topic.
Yeah.
But
it's very normative nowadays.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And some people sincerely believe that it's a healthy thing.
Mm.
No idea how corrosive it is. At this point in my life, I would say that if I had to pick out the most destructive property of pornography, it's this. Porn offers an imaginary connection with a virtual person, which, if you accept it, begins right at that moment to compromise your ability to form and sustain a real relationship with an actual person.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But we're all wired for intimacy. We all need connection. And porn can feel like connection without risk.
Yeah, and you're in control.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
So as a socially awkward kid, somebody that the girls were not lining up to go out with. Porn provided all through adolescence. To me, it was a self-soothing behavior. When I got to college, I didn't go to a Christian school. I got scholarship to a secular university, and when I got there, I decided, I'm tired of all this guilt, because I went through a ton of guilt as an adolescent. These binge and purge cycles, and made countless trips to the altar, often without ever leaving the pew.
Now, did you go there to get forgiveness or to get resaved?
Both.
Because how many times did we get born again
absolutely.
again? I guess maybe it didn't take the first time.
Right,
I need to reborn again.
Well, I was in a stream of Christianity that really believed that if you sin, you lose your salvation.
Okay.
So we're on the knife edge all the time.
What denomination is that?
Well, we were a non-denominational denomination, but we were in the holiness tradition.
Okay.
So, so I decided, all that guilt is probably just the residue of an overly puritanical upbringing. I need to join the modern world. I need sex education. What better place to get it than porn?
Yeah.
So I actually rationalized my porn use during my college years as preparation for marriage.
Okay.
I was sure that when I got married, the problem would disappear.
Right.
I also still kept it secret because naturally I became the president of the, the campus Christian fellowship. So, right. So it's still hidden, but I'm rationalizing. And I did meet the perfect girl, and we did get married the day I graduated.
Yeah. So when you look my way.
Yeah. We got married the day I graduated. What I didn't realize, Brad, was that at that point, by then, porn and masturbation had become my primary distress management strategy. Whenever I was in distress, that's what I went to. And as it turns out, marriage is stressful.
Yes.
So it wasn't too long after the honeymoon that the problem reappeared. So now I'm really in a spot. In order to live with myself, what I told myself then was, porn's probably your best defense against infidelity.
Okay.
Okay? I love my wife. No way I'll ever cheat on her.
Yeah.
Right? I meant it when I said I'll be faithful to you so long as we both shall live. So I come to think of it, I'm probably being pretty considerate, not burdening my wife with all my sexual needs. She just doesn't need to know how considerate I'm being.
Right.
Right?
Especially with Miss June.
Right. Yeah, exactly. What I didn't, what I didn't realize was that porn was now grooming me, programming me, setting me up for the next step. It got worse during seminary. It was during seminary that I was actually introduced to hardcore porn on a seminary-sponsored trip into New York City, where we intended to show us how women are exploited by the sex business. And I thought, this is a good idea. I'm a good person. I don't want to see anybody hurt. If I can see behind the curtain, I'll stop. I brought my wife on the trip. I got my first look at hardcore porn, the kind of stuff that any unsupervised 6-year-old can find today on the internet in 2 minutes. I saw it for the first time as a married man with my wife beside me in the peep show booth. She put the quarter in.
Okay. I was trying to figure out so it's the live, like dancing or whatever they do behind them.
Well, no. So this was video. Actually, it was before video. It was filmed. You could hear the clatter of a movie projector in the darkness behind you. I had no idea how much more powerful those moving images were than the still images I'd been using up till that point. Because film is immersive. It actually stimulates a part of the brain that cannot distinguish between real experience and virtual experience. Okay. So now it's like I'm in a simulator.
Yeah.
Right? And it takes a few years. So years pass. We're now living in Florida. I'm a pastor. And it's a Christmas Eve, and I'm on my way, to set up for a candlelight service. And I pull over to offer a woman a ride out of the rain, not knowing what she's doing until she's in the car and propositioning me.
Okay.
And that's when programming kicked in. At that point, I went full automatic.
Mm.
And because I had seen some version of that scenario countless times.
Yeah.
Now, that was an awful night, just coming back to consciousness afterwards. And now I've got to lead this service, and it's, and my wife and my kids and the people who love and trust me. And the worst part was knowing what I'd done and knowing I was going to do it again. Once I crossed the line,
right,
there was a part of me that knew there's no getting back across that line. I fought it, of course. I prayed I wouldn't do it. I promised I wouldn't do it, and I didn't right away, but then I did.
Mm.
And I did it again. Now, I was always very careful. I was never caught. But it was that point in the 80s when prominent preachers were all over the news with sex scandals of one kind or another. And I could just see it. I mean, when they caught me, I wasn't famous yet, but I was building a good reputation in South Florida. And the story was juicy enough that I'd make the paper,
Sure.
And the prospect of anybody ever finding out, to me, was just the most terrifying, humiliating, unthinkable thing. So I woke up on my 30th birthday knowing that something had to give. I had to either stop the behavior or quit the ministry. And at that point, I didn't have a choice. So at the age of 30, I quit the ministry. I retired from ministry. I pled burnout to the, mystification of my congregation. My wife was actually relieved. She'd seen me drifting away from her emotionally. She thought maybe it was all the pressures of the ministry. Maybe if I got away from the ministry, we could be friends again.
Okay. So the marriage was being affected.
Absolutely.
Already. But was the ministry element playing a part in that, or was it strictly this other double life thing that was happening?
Well, I think it was all of it.
Yeah. In other words, if there was no porn thing, do you still think you would have stayed in ministry, or do you still think, nah, this ain't for me, man, I'm out?
I have wondered that, and I don't have an answer to that question, Brad. I do feel like I am in the ministry today. I'm not a pastor anymore. I'm not in the professional ranks, but I am much more useful as a civilian than I ever was. I'm 10 times the pastor now than I was when they were paying me to do it. I don't do church politics very well. But the main problem was I was pretending in the pulpit, and I was pretending at home, and it's that. So I was living two lives, and this sexual behavior of mine, this sexual acting out, this hidden sexual behavior, it's very, it's disassociative, to use a psychological term. You really have to go away from yourself to do it. So I was kind of. When I look back over those years, and of course it didn't end then. I quit the ministry. That didn't solve the problem. I went into business where I had the great misfortune to succeed. Within a year and a half, I was a partner in an engineering firm. So now I've got money. I've got freedom to travel. I've got an expense account nobody's looking at. And what followed then was a very dark dozen years, as that hidden sexual behavior just really intensified. Looking back, reconstructing it later, my best guess is that I spent in all $300,000 on pornography and prostitution.
Wow.
But really, that's just money. My greatest regret is that I spent my children's childhood.
Yeah.
And 20 years of my life and 20 years of my wife's life. But I never missed church. Okay, I love church. In church, I could be Saint Nate. I could be the person I wanted to be. I just couldn't be that person outside the building for very long. I couldn't keep it going. Well, we made the move. My wife was praying for me. God bless her. She was praying for me the whole
And she
time.
had no idea ever in any of this time.
Well, that's not exactly true. At one point, after we made the move from Princeton, where I went to seminary, down to Fort Lauderdale, I did go to a men's retreat where I heard a priest talk about his battle with a porn addiction. I'd never heard the word uttered in church before.
Mm.
And I was so inspired by what he said that when I got home, I told Allie what I'd been doing. So she's a strong woman. She'd been around the block. She wasn't a naive, just church girl. So she wasn't totally shocked. There's no way she was going to accept the behavior. But she said, look, I'm sorry that you had to hide this from me. And you don't have to hide. When you're struggling, you can tell me. What I didn't realize, and so when I told her, and that was very powerful, by telling her, I got relief. And I thought, wow, this is perfect. My wife can now be my accountability partner in all matters sexual, and nobody else ever has to know. What I didn't understand was she had volunteered for a job that God didn't build her to do. She was willing, but she could never hear my confession in a completely objective way. If I found another woman attractive, it pointed in her mind to some deficiency on her part, right? She took it, but I could tell that it hurt. So after a while, I stopped telling her. Yeah. And she then assumed that's because we made it through the white water. We were fine. And she didn't question me on it afterwards, and I was very, very good at misdirection. I gaslighted that woman like a pro for a long, long time. But 20 years in, after we had made the move from Fort Lauderdale up here to Middle Tennessee, we'd come here to be close to our oldest son and his wife. After they became pregnant with our first grandchild, we came to be close to the baby. Lots of people move here to be close to grandkids. Yeah. Okay. It was shortly after that move that Allie caught me. First, one night, we made the move, and it was beautiful. The alcoholics call it the geographic cure. We made the move, and there was this period where the obsession lifted. It was wonderful. We're buying curtains and buying furniture and painting, walking to church, holding hands. And I think, wow, all that time, the problem was Florida. But then we started running out of money. When that happened, I started to get scared. And when that happened, I reached for the only fear medication I'd ever used. So late one night after Allie had fallen asleep, I slipped out of bed, went back to the office, fired up the computer, started downloading porn. Because now the game had changed again. I didn't have to go to adult bookstores anymore. I didn't have to rent videos anymore.
Oh, yeah.
Now I got broadband.
Yeah.
Right? I got an endless supply, an endless variety of virtual sex partners delivered free of charge in the privacy and anonymity of my own home, office, or automobile in full motion video. I don't know how long I was there that night. Time disappeared, as it does when we're in a dissociated state. All I know is that at one point I looked up and my wife was standing. She didn't say anything. She left. I quickly shut everything down, followed her back into the bedroom, apologizing, promising, and explaining, begging, We made it through that night, but a few nights later, she found a condom on the floor in the bathroom that I couldn't quite explain. And that's when she sat me down on the edge of our bed and she said, I'm done. She said, I still love you, but I don't like you. I don't trust you. I don't respect you. I don't think you can ever change. Those were the words that saved my life. Those were the words that gave me the gift of desperation. I was now desperate enough to do something I had never been willing to do before, which is actually go for help. Ironically, I found help. I didn't go to church. I didn't go to the church. First of all, I'd seen what the church typically does to people who get caught in a sexual sin. In fact, ironically, I had participated in the stoning of other guys who had been foolish enough to take our rhetoric about grace at face value and actually confess a sexual sin, right? So I didn't go to the church. I went to a 12-step group for sex addicts, which is not a Christian group. Now, it was in the buckle of a Bible belt, so everybody in the room pretty much was at least nominally Christian. The crazy thing is that experience, it actually helped me to be temporarily deprived of my ministerial pedigree, my Christian vocabulary, my pat answers that weren't working anyway, where I could just be a man among men, just another messed up man in the room, right? Where nobody wanted to meet Saint Nate. He wasn't welcome. I was welcome, right? I could bring my real. Oddly enough, that experience not only saved my marriage and saved my life, actually saved me spiritually. I met God in a whole new way. He got a whole lot more personal. He got bigger and closer at the same time. And it reinvigorated the gospel came alive to me in a way I'd never seen. The Bible changed. I've been trained to read the Bible through this filter where there's not a whole lot of grace and there's a whole lot of law. And I got to tell you, I sometimes ask, people ask me, when did you become a Christian? And that's no longer an easy question for me to answer. Because, I gave my life to Jesus when I was 5 years old, and I got resaved all through and I've had encounters with God throughout. But I would say that real pivotal encounter came when I was 42 years old, in the basement of the church, in the middle of the week, while all the good people were gone. So anyway, eventually I lost my shame. I had been, the church's main approach to dealing with my kind of sin had been to try to shame us out of it. And I'd internalized that critical voice, and I had been spending years trying to shame my way out of shame-based behavior, which is only driving me deeper into hiding, right? But now I'm in a place where I'm encouraged to walk in the light. And I've got people who aren't going to crucify me when I say the truth, right? And so anyway, years pass, I finally find it takes me a while. I actually slipped like a champ for the first 2.5 years, mainly because I didn't want to join the group. I wasn't looking for friends. I went to the meeting for research purposes. My plan, I wanted to set the land speed record for recovery.
Okay.
Right? I really thought at that point that I had an information problem. I had spent years searching for the final piece of the puzzle, the key insight, the perfect ritual, the silver bullet, the thing that would make it possible for me finally to overcome this compulsion on my own. And I was hopeful that I'd finally found the people who had the secret information. Well, it turns out there really isn't any secret information. We're learning more all the time, and there are things to learn. Most of it's thousands of years old.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and I really didn't have an information problem. I had a relationship problem. I was well known, but nobody knew me, and at that point, I didn't even know myself. But I wasn't looking for friends. I wanted to. I'm going to set the land speed record. I'm a sharp guy. I'm going to master the material quickly. I'm going to pass the final exam. I'm going to get the diploma, the trophy, whatever it is they give you, and I'm going to go on and forget that this sad chapter of my life has ever happened, which is why I slipped like a champ. I couldn't put together more than 60 days. And I then spiraled down. So, but finally, enough. I face planted enough times that I became willing finally just to join the human race, just become another bozo on the bus. Just be as willing to ask for help as I was to give help, as willing to take advice as I was to give advice. And that's when I got some traction. So some years pass, I find that the way I'm going to keep this freedom, as I get this freedom, the way I'm going to keep it is by giving it away, right? Service is a big part of ongoing sanity and sobriety. So I lost my shame about it. I became willing to talk. My wife was asking me at that point, hey, tone it down a little bit. Don't go telling everything. We'd like to have friends. Yeah. But I told my pastor and gave him my phone number and said, hey, if there's anybody you think I can help, give him my number. And my phone began to ring right away because it turns out I'm nowhere near unique.
Yeah.
At least half the guys in church are in that fight.
Yeah. More than that, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the phone starts to ring, and I start to walk with guys and do with them what my friends are doing with me. And then, we're all Christian. And then what we really wanted to be able to do was, could we put together this recovery experience, which actually comes out of a Christian heritage anyway? Can we kind of recovery from the church? Can we actually use our own Christian language? Can we have let's open our meetings in prayer. Let's read a little scripture. Let's have a confession of faith without getting all pharisaical about it. Can we be authentic and Christian at the same time? And so at my wife's suggestion, with her support, we started the Samson Society. Not as a group for porn addicts or sex addicts exclusively. We have guys now who come to Samson for all kinds of life-controlling issues. But just a place in the middle of the church where a guy can bring his real self and say the real truth.
So it's chapters can spring up in a church, like, in other words, you're starting, or do they?
Yeah.
So a guy might go and say, you know what, I need this, I want to bring this back to Alabama. And then he goes this thing, I'm starting to send who's in.
Yep.
Next thing you know, you got a men's ministry at your church.
Absolutely. Which
is probably more effective than most men's ministry, because they're the most difficult ministry to get anywhere in church. To get started, to get guys to show up. It's difficult. But boy, if there's one area that I honestly, Nate, I don't know if there's a human male ever that hasn't, to some degree, struggled with lust, which is really what we're dealing with.
Right.
It's just that we live in an age where the lust isn't a naked woman carved in a piece of granite. That's they did in the looking over their shoulder before they bury it in the the tomb. And suddenly it literally become. I mean, I don't know that anybody could have anticipated what the world would become with.
And it's not done yet.
No,
it's not.
It's just getting worse, and we've seen the demons unleashed in the last number of years.
Right.
And what it makes, and I've said this on my podcast, it makes one wonder: have we been deluded all these years? Has this always been what really was going on, and we just thought we were free, and we were Christians, we were a Christian nation, and we honored God, and He had blessed us because of that, like Israel. And boy, if you read through the Bible in a year, I'm doing that right now. Obviously, majority of it in the Old Testament, it's older, and it's story after story after story of God's chosen people failing so often that you can't keep reading it and not go, are you guys ever gonna just stop doing this? How many C's does he have to cut into two? How many pillars of fire? I've not had one pillar of fire in my 64 years on earth as a Christian. These guys every day, and by the way, food's coming out of the sky. Letting you know. And then they go, you know what? I haven't seen food for a day. let's build a calf.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it seems so ludicrous.
Well, I'll tell you this. So I've been in recovery. It's been 25 years that I've been in recovery. I have a wonderful freedom that I am so grateful for. I'm also aware of how fragile it is, right? And I asked God to give me a lifetime supply of it, and He refused to ship it. I've got to be. He sends it a day at a time.
Vigilant.
Okay, I've got to be humble enough to go out every day and pick it up like manna. Now, here's the thing. And I've gone to countless meetings now. I've never left a meeting. Sorry, I went. I'm always so glad I went.
Yeah.
But there are times I still have to drag myself to meetings.
Yeah.
I hate porn today, Brad. I hate what it does to people. But there's still a part of me that loves porn. And I still, especially in times of stress, I will at times have these flashes of euphoric recall. And in that moment, I really want to go back to Egypt. And that's where I really rely on, the boundaries, the brothers, the routines, the connections to carry me through. Because I can't do this on my own.
Well, and let me complete my sentence about the Israelites. Because a couple of years ago, I went through the Bible full year, came to the same conclusion, then I'm doing it again this year. And what I got from it, Nate, for some reason, when you do it, when you sort of superficially read through the Bible or see some of these stories, you just go, what's wrong with you guys?
Yeah.
It's because you just get a little snippet of, he did a great thing for you, and then you betrayed him, but he's always there if you repent, but you got to pay the price if you don't.
Right.
What's wrong with you people? I wish I would have some miracles. Then I'd never stray from God if he did just one time split the sea, and I will never go backwards because I've seen the impossible. And what I learned from that, I said, God, why do you show these Israelite people, very specific, genealogically specific people, the Jews, that he set apart and said, you will be my lineage, you will be my representatives on earth as to the Ten Commandments, as to the monotheistic God, as to my representation of dimensionalizing my transcendence into the real form that you will see, and it will be prophesied. So there is no linear time constraints. You're going to see the impossible to prove this is real. So it's this amazing story. And so he was very specific about this one group that he could isolate. So you could kind of examine their history and see how it worked and see the through line of this story. And what I've realized from it, Nate, is he's saying, you're not reading the Israelite story. This is your stinking story.
Oh, that's it.
This is you.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm just isolating one little group so you can see what it looks like, but it's you.
Yeah.
You keep doing this. Your little casual compromises.
Yeah.
The big ones are easy.
Yeah.
Sorry for that one. Oh, why did I do the casual one? It's not even going into the porn and saying, there it is.
Yeah.
Obvious. Easy. Sorry, God, my bad. Won't do that again. Maybe you go another 6 months and you don't.
Yeah.
I really did good. He's saying, you know what? That was kind of simple, though, wasn't it? Kind of easy.
Yeah.
Kind of a lightning storm. But what I'm worried about is that little glance you just gave right now. That 15 glances you gave this day. That other one over there. That little thought. It's like, and again, this is a difficult, vigilant discipline that is necessary because men like women. We like sex. We like naked women. Period. We are driven by this thing. We will start wars for this thing. We will make continents for this thing. We will create institutions. Right?
Yeah,
Men fight for their women that God gave us to complete us at the beginning. But it's us. And so you don't get you don't get off the hook. And it's kind of like what you said when we find ourselves projecting onto others when they reveal themselves so that I don't have to face me.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, see, he's bad, right? And maybe, so don't look over here because look at this guy. So that to me was bittersweet.
Yeah.
Because it was like, wow, I don't want to think of myself in that regard, but it also let me know this is the human condition.
Yeah.
This is what it looks like. You just gave us a great, amazing, full-bodied testimony to what you have gone through and what your amazing ministry that came from it was. And this is what I was talking about just being honest and real. And obviously we got a lot of women watching as well as the men, and the men watching are going, oh my God, this dude, thank you for being so real. And I often think to myself, and so I need you to address this because this is your bailiwick. This is your expertise. Okay, so women listening to this, what should they take from this? Because I do feel like women, because of their emotional vitality, more so than oftentimes men, I really do believe, and maybe you're going to chastise me for this, and I'm not using this as an excuse, I just think it's true. I do believe that men can differentiate the act from the emotional attachment. We can go into our head and just do what we needed to do and then head back in, but women kind of can't. If I am with you intimately, I'm kind of so to them it's a much larger episode because there was so much more at stake than maybe what we think. Now, I'm not saying there wasn't that much at stake, perhaps for the man, because we're equally bonded with that intimate act. But it does seem like we can make it more physical and then sort of let it go and go back to the wife and still feel love for her, more so than the woman. Now, if I'm wrong, let me know. But also to speak to the women like, is it a personal attack necessarily that you're not fulfilling me? Because I don't think that's always the case.
Oh, no.
And if, let's say they're single, let's say they don't have a man, maybe this is foreign to them. Maybe women are as addicted to porn. I don't know what's going on out there. I've heard that women have a lot of porn problems. I don't know how. I just would feel like they don't have the same visual. That's what I've heard. So I'm giving you a giant question, Nate, and I apologize. But I do want to not leave them feeling awkward about, like, am I listening in on the gym locker room stories instead of where do I fit in this as a woman, and especially a woman of God?
Okay, so let's talk about, first of all, let's not ignore the porn-addicted, sex-addicted woman. The fastest growing segment of the porn-addicted population is female. And that's because the porn industry, when the bottom fell out of the porn business, when the first streaming sites went online, and it became possible for users to upload porn, pirated porn they made their own, all that kind of stuff, that took 2/3 of the profit out of the porn business. The porn producers then had to find another market. They identified the women. They poured millions of dollars into creating porn specifically for women, and it's been highly successful. So,
and it must be different. I mean, there's some...
Yes, it tends to be more story-driven.
Okay.
Sorry,
I got to laugh as a guy going, who cares about the story? That's a guy. All right.
Okay.
By the way, I'm not trivializing this situation, but it's just, how can you not understand that men and women have a different take on how they perceive the physical act? That we just do. So I'm just trying to kind of, I don't know, show men that I understand.
But
and without making women feel as though I'm not thinking it could be serious for them.
But it feels to the partner, to the woman, like a betrayal.
Yeah, of course.
I was just listening to Terry Crews a couple of days ago on the Rich Roll podcast, and Terry has talked very openly about his own porn addiction. And he said that he's been in recovery now for a dozen years or more. He said when he tries to explain to guys what it's like for their wife to find out that they've been using porn, he said, imagine if you were to find out that another guy has been giving your wife money. Just giving her a couple $1,000s a month, and she hasn't been saying anything. How does that make you feel? Okay, that helps. That helps. But it is, betrayal trauma is a real thing, and what we have discovered is that the betrayed spouse, so it might be the wife, it might be the husband who's been stepping out, maybe just with porn, or maybe it's escalated, as it did in my case, to other things. Or maybe she's been stepping out, and he finds out. So the betrayed spouse is going there's a decent chance that they will start to exhibit the same symptoms and experience the same feelings that combat veterans do. It actually starts to manifest as PTSD. It is that, it can be, it isn't always, but in a significant percentage of cases, the experience, that discovery is so traumatic that good trauma care is appropriate.
Wow. Okay, so let's go. Let's try to make sure that we're using your story to the most effect. In that, because the purpose of this conversation not only is to explore something that's very rampant and necessary to deal with, and that I think it in some, I hope, healthy way, it makes all these guys watching going, you're not a freak. Right. You're pretty much pretty much in the same boat as I think most men, especially in the Christian, if they grew up in the church and they're not used to that kind of openness and that frankness and that exposure. Yeah. I think that most guys think I'm the only one. Oh. All these guys have nailed this Christian thing, but me, I can't bring this up because I'm a freak. What's wrong with? Why can't I just say no?
Yeah, right.
And then if they ever reach that moment where they have such a safe environment with men only,
right? Exactly.
And they say, "Okay, my name is Brad, and I'm addicted to," and they're waiting to kind of brace themselves for this. Like, what?
Yeah.
What have you done? What they actually hear is the guys going, "That's it?
Yeah.
That's all you get? Let me." I see your porn addiction, and I raise you 3 prostitutes. Because there's somebody going, this is maybe the single greatest challenge for men of every sin in human history. Seriously, what broke down every man in the Bible, Samson, society to Samson's a perfect example.
Sure, yeah.
How stupid did this guy, how many times did she say, when you told me how to stop your power and I in the ropes, and then I tied, and then it didn't work.
Yeah.
I said, how about another option? How many times did he go, maybe she's not.
She's betrayed him 3 times
three
already.
times. Go, maybe. And dude, that's how much he liked that sex.
Yeah.
It had to be. What else is he?
Right. Yeah.
What is he being enticed by?
Right.
How stupid. That's what men will risk.
Right.
Their family, their children,
absolutely.
their reputation. That's how powerful that thing is.
Yeah. And if you're in, as we are, a highly sexualized society, which tells you for example, that I sincerely believe one of my big hurdles when I got into recovery was I was around these crazy guys who told me that sex is optional. I said, no, you don't understand. Sex is a fundamental need. They said, okay, here's the description of sobriety. No sex with self or partners other than the spouse. I said, I'm all in on part 2, but not part 1.
Mm.
And let me be clear, I don't think masturbation's a sin. I really don't. However, I know where it leads for me, right? I got no brakes when it comes to it, right? So, and I, at that point, because I had been managing my life using that self-administered drug, sex, that orgasm was more important to me than sleep. I'd forego sleep. Food, I'd forego money, right? It was almost as essential as air and water. And I thought, I will explode. I will die if you say I can't do this. So, and I found plenty of support, among my even Christian friends who said, yeah, come on, cut yourself a break. You gotta, you gotta let off the steam, whatever. So, And so because now, did Jesus live a full life?
Mm.
Did the Apostle Paul, is it possible to be single, celibate, fulfilled, happy, and complete? Can sex be a gift without it having to be a need? I got to tell you, my marriage got a whole lot richer when sex became an option and not a need.
Mm.
When I wasn't swinging for the fences every time my wife showed me even the least bit of affection or encouragement. And I learned through hard experience that when I made the decision to recategorize sex, to categorize it biblically as a gift, as a wonderful thing, but not a need. Culture tells us it's a need and a right.
Mm. And a way to define yourself.
Oh, exactly.
Yeah.
When it becomes a gift, when it becomes an option, and I have freedom, now I'll tell you what, that's an opportunity for a marriage to go a whole lot deeper emotionally.
Yeah, for sure. Well, we're going into some serious discussion, and frankly, it's not that complicated. To the secular world, what we're talking about is irrelevant. I mean, it's like, what? Whatever. But to the Christian world, unfortunately, oftentimes, maybe more so it's talked about than it ever used to be. Maybe there's a lot more because of Samson societies and people along that. Realize this is, if we don't get to the bottom of this, we're really in some big trouble because so many pastors. Well, my story was in 1981, was it? Swaggart has his fall. Jimmy Swaggart has his fall. He was with a prostitute and masturbating in front of her. I don't think he had sex with her. I think it was more like maybe looked at her, or visual thing. And he got caught, and you're thrown out, and he got onto the TV and did his crying jag and whatever. And I'll never. I'm a 21-year-old man, Christian man, and I'm going, how dare you shame the body of? Because I liked him. I used to listen to him. How dare you shame the body? What's wrong with you? You're a pastor. You're supposed to stand. You should be kicked out. You should never be on the pulpit. This is me. I'm 21 years old.
Right.
There is no grace here. There's no excuse. I guess there's forgiveness, but you're going to have to earn it, buddy. This is about as bad as it gets, because you embarrassed the church, and you embarrassed our faith, and you embarrassed our name, and you embarrassed Jesus. Cut to 2000, I don't remember now, 5-ish, 6-ish. And I forgot, I just blanked on his name, but he was a speaker at Promise Keepers at one point. He was a Christian pastor who fell from, and I think it was homosexual. Who am I talking about?
Ted Haggard, maybe?
Ted Haggard.
Okay.
Exactly what I'm talking about. Around 05-ish, maybe 08. I don't remember. It was Pelosi had done Friends of God. So there was Nancy Pelosi's daughter, who's a documentary maker, did a documentary called Friends of God.
Okay.
And this was right after Hillary, was it? No, it was after, Kerry Bush political campaign, and Bush won, and the exit polls it was values voters, and Hillary Clinton said, well, I guess we need to find our own values. So this was how progressives think, is that what do we need to pretend to have so that we can, I mean, literally, it's all a political game to them. It's not actually having values. It's like, well, we need to fake those?
Yeah.
Okay. And so she had made this documentary, and one of the biggest features was Ted Haggard in this thing, because I was in it. Okay. She interviewed me as the comic, God's comic. That's when the New Yorker had come out. Okay. So he comes out, and this isn't just sex. He was huge. He had like the White House's phone. I mean, he was like the evangelical leader.
He was the president of the National Association of Evangelicals.
So huge.
Yeah.
And now it's gay sex.
Right, yeah.
First thing I thought, you ready? This poor guy had nowhere to say, guys, here's my struggle.
Yeah.
Can anybody help me?
Yeah.
And I felt heartbroken because I knew where do you go with that?
Yeah, exactly.
When you have that status.
Yeah, right.
And it broke my heart. It's like, you should have had a place to go.
Yeah, right.
We should be able to say, help me, guys.
Yeah.
And we didn't, and he didn't have that. And so my walk and my experience and my ability to look through a life in retrospect, who had fallen a million times to porn and masturbation and sex.
Yeah.
Now, this is prior to marriage. I will give myself that. Never cheated on my wife.
Okay.
Thank God. But I had my prodigal journey prior to that in my life. And you start going, you are no better than this guy.
Yeah.
What are you doing? How did you struggle with it? How did you struggle with this pain? How did you struggle with this shame?
Yeah. Yeah.
And you suddenly go, you know what? I really need to give some grace because Lord knows if I needed grace in my life.
Yeah.
So I want to ask you something, though, and I don't want to lose this because it's a big one. You said, I don't think masturbation is a sin. Now, I would venture to guess at least your classic evangelical.
Yeah.
Classic theology.
Yeah.
Historically, would say it is.
Yeah.
So where did you reach your conclusion? Explain that to me. Because I think a lot of guys going, They want to know how you see
I don't know.
that. I'm not saying you're right or wrong. I'm not even judging
James
you.
Dobson on this one. He came to that conclusion.
Okay.
I don't. Now I'll probably get in more trouble with other believers because I also don't. One of the things I have done in the last 2 years in my journey toward wholeness is I also quit drinking. Okay, I also don't believe that drinking alcohol is a sin.
I don't either.
But I have discovered that for me, it's dangerous.
Me too. I'm sober 6 years because I couldn't do it moderately. I couldn't.
Yeah.
And it makes you feel like, why can't I be like everybody else and have a drink with everybody else? And it's a weird moment, Nate, when you have to confront this.
Yeah. It's a good, humbling moment.
You feel like you should be able to say, I don't know why I can't just drink one. It doesn't see it rationally, pragmatically. It doesn't seem like there is an actual accurate answer to that. That isn't simply lack of self-discipline. But there is something else in some of us who said, I can drink moderately.
Yeah.
And for me, moderate means I can't drink.
Yeah.
That's my moderation because I can't stop. So if porn can be like that, I'm guessing, but masturbation. So, but I'm curious about, from a biblical standpoint, you're a man of God. I know you are. I vouch for that.
Yeah.
So you have to justify that. So where do you see that? Just so I'm curious.
Well, first of all, it is never explicitly spelled out in Scripture. The closest you can come to is Onan spilling.
But that was
seed.
a whole different deal.
That's a whole different.
He was supposed to.
I think if it was a sin,
brother.
it would be explicit in Scripture that it's a sin. Lust is a sin. So if you could bring yourself to climax thinking only chaste thoughts about your wife, I suppose, there you go. To me, I can't go there without a cast of thousands. I've got so much. Right? Okay.
No. That's what I'm getting at.
It isn't going to happen.
So what you're saying in theory, you would say that if it was because the Bible, what Jesus was very specific was, if you look at a one with lust, so he's very much about the mind. How does it see? What is it representing during this act of counterfeiting sexual intimacy?
Right.
Because you're having half of the experience without the person who's supposed to be there in a sacred union.
Yeah.
So there is something holy about it, theoretically, right? I mean, and true.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so you're saying to yourself, well, if you could think of it you're off on the road because you're a businessman and you're thinking about your wife, then you can't lust after your wife, I guess, because that's a permissible act, unless, I guess. And again, I'm not making any judgment. I'm just curious about this, and we're just sort of fettering this out for everybody to listen to. Unless she would say, I'm not comfortable with that. Right. I'd rather me be part. I'd like to participate. I'd love to jump in, get my action as well. Yeah. So I guess maybe if she gave you her blessing,
I suppose,
then we could say theoretically there is nothing biblical that states that you can't think of your wife in that act. And that, so that's your premise, is what you're saying. Okay, I was just curious, how you were seeing it. And
all I know is that for guys who are trying to come back to some sanity, whose lives have gone out of control with lust, trying to finesse it by reserving masturbation as an option, it's a slippery slope, and it just doesn't work. And actually, we really need to learn that we're not going to die without it.
Yeah. You know what I learned, though, Nate? Was that, again, this is as a young single man where I was much more sexually active. What I learned was that masturbation actually diminishes the power of the sexual experience when it is delayed, because the point of not getting that sex every second of every moment with you gives you the anticipation.
Right. Oh, sure, yeah.
Ooh, I can't wait. I'm going to be home in 2 days, if you're on the road, or she said tonight, let's have this, so you get that moment of it's coming and here we go, and I can't wait, and you're desiring it, but you're not giving in to it.
Right.
So there's this, when is the thing? And it actually makes that sexual intimacy so much more robust, and you go, oh, this is what this was. I can do, after 33 years, it can still be this amazing, powerful.
Right.
Oh my gosh! Because you kept it for that time. If it took a week, oh well. Yeah. But now, Christmas is here, and I think in some ways that's what God was saying was, it's special, and let's not diminish it by thinking you just indulge it because you desire it, as opposed to saving it for the moment that seems impossible. Until you get there, and then you go, this was much better than that.
Let me give you.
But you got to retrain your mind.
Let me give you a sobering statistic. There is a global study that's done on a 10-year cycle called the Global Survey of Sexual Attitudes and Behaviors, the GSSAB. And it's huge. It's done in countries all over the world. They interview 30,000 people, extensive questionnaire. Included in those questions are 6 that are part of an older survey, been done for a long time. It was created by urologists back in the day. And it's the IIED, the International Index of Erectile Dysfunction. So now, historically, among people who've been, questioned, taken that survey, males 18 to 35, the rate of erectile dysfunction in that group has been 2%. So when the GSSAB was done in 2004, the results came back as expected, that 2% of males 18 to 35 suffer some form of erectile dysfunction. Now, the survey wasn't done again until 2014. In between those 2 dates, 2 pivotal things happened. September of 2006, the first streaming porn site went online. June 2007, the iPhone came out. Okay. The next time the survey was done in 2014, the rate of erectile dysfunction in that age group had jumped from 2% to, any guess? 30%. And that's a result that's been replicated in multiple. And now we're waiting on the results of the next one because we're now at 2024. Urologists now have a term for it. PIED, porn-induced erectile dysfunction.
Wow.
Porn is actually resetting the arousal template of males.
Of course.
Okay. And also conditioning us to novelty. Because if I can have simulated sex with a dozen or 100 women in a day, if I can flip from scene to scene to scene, then I might meet and marry the most beautiful woman in the world, but she's only one woman.
Yeah.
Okay? So this has catastrophic consequences for an entire generation. So now we see where, dating patterns have changed so dramatically.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Standards of sexual behavior have changed so dramatically as women are taking their cues from porn as to what men need and vice versa. And how, and if the strength of a society is the stable nuclear family.
Yeah. Well, and I also think that I know that men that age, there's these, what are they called? Incels. Where they choose to be celibate. It's like they've given up on dating.
Yeah.
They've given up on intimacy, but almost not in some sort of desperation. It's almost like they don't care.
Right.
Like something is where I don't really need that.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
You don't need sex with your wife and this wonderful thing and children or whatever.
Yeah.
So like you said, this programming of that's not necessary. And obviously, if that's a desire suddenly, and it's available whenever you want it at the drop of a hat, and then I'm done, I can move on. You don't need the wedding and the wife to provide that, which is what it used to be.
Right.
So your desire was met, but in a beautiful way, in a sacred way, and in making a procreative way, making children, which is the point. It would make sense that you are also losing community.
Oh yeah.
You're losing how to get along with a woman, which is very difficult, and vice versa. Clearly, nothing makes you more of a man than learning to adapt to women's needs because they're not like ours, and you feel like it's crazy, and I just shouldn't have to do this because you're the one that's got the problem. And what you learn in marriage, if you've been around, is what you really learn is it's really there to teach you to be the man you're supposed to be. Now, clearly, she's got her take. It's to teach her to be the woman she's supposed to be, but you can't worry about that.
Right, yeah.
That's on her. Your job is to love her as Christ loved the church, and that means pure sacrifice and taking her sins upon you. It will always seem unfair, because it is. It will always seem, when's it my turn? Because it should be. It is always going to feel like I should be dignified this time. I should be heard. All of those things are true. And when you learn to say, and God says, meanwhile, love and give anyways, when you don't receive what you deserve, you'll become a man. You'll become a disciple. And it's so hard. But it also changes you in a way that you can't even fathom until you see yourself going, what has happened to me? I'm somebody else. And I couldn't get there on my own. God had to intervene. Well, listen, as we get ready to let you out of here, brother, because you've been so kind, and our glitch is trying to get started. But it's not going to be this simple, but let's not at least attempt to give a kind of a simplistic formula. At least there's somebody watching, guaranteed, going, oh my God, have I been waiting for this episode? What do I do, Nate? How do I get started? How do I get this? Because it's easy to talk about the shame. We all know it's shameful. We all know we don't want to do it. And we all know God wants us to stop. Who gives a crap? That doesn't help it.
Yeah.
Doesn't fix it.
Right. Yeah.
And don't be a Bible verse.
Yeah.
That didn't fix it either. What's the answer to this incredibly difficult dilemma?
Okay. The opposite of addiction is connection. Okay. Recovery requires relationship. You got to find a place. You got to find a person. One thing that you can do is Samson Society now has online meetings, multiple meetings every day, meetings in 7 languages already. Newcomer meeting every day. So you can go to samsonsociety.com, sign up for a newcomer meeting.
And I'm guessing it's private.
Free.
But private, I mean.
Yeah.
So it's not like nobody's going to know you're there
No,
if you don't want to be known or whatever.
Exactly. And it's completely safe.
Yeah.
So it's not, and what we found is that it's sometimes easy for guys to go to a virtual meeting than for a meeting in their hometown.
Yeah, right.
Okay. And I'll tell you what, one of the most exciting developments is in the last few years, the wives and girlfriends of Samson Society have gotten together, the Samson guys. They love what's happened to their husbands. They got a little jealous. They said, we want a piece of that.
Yeah.
They started their own group called the Sarah Society.
Okay.
It's support for the wives of Samson guys. They're growing at a phenomenal rate. The rate they're growing, they'll be
It's
bigger.
for women who have had an addicted husband?
Yeah, they've got
or is it their addiction?
No, it's not for, I mean, they can talk about anything they want.
Yeah.
It's a safe place to talk about anything they want. But it's specifically for the partners of men in recovery.
Okay.
Or men who should be in recovery.
So it's like Al-Anon.
Right, exactly.
But it's for sexual scenarios.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So Samson Society is a good plug and legitimate because it has a track record of actual healing.
Or
but
maybe there's a Celebrate Recovery in your church. They very often have a porn addiction, sex addiction track.
Is there any kind of, just as they leave this and click out and they're still in that computer, and maybe they're being stimulated by this and they're going to go find porn right now. So is there any kind of, I don't know, prime the pump kind of, just a little couple of fragments of, here's a couple things you need to do that's going to help you start this thing, just so they feel like there's hope? Because for guys who are deeply addicted, they're like, you don't get it. You don't get it. I can't get out of this. That's how you feel.
Yeah. Don't make another promise to try harder and do better.
Beautiful.
You can't do it on your own. This is going to be God's gift. I am so grateful to be an addict because that weakness of mine that God loves me too much to take away, that thorn in the flesh that he would never remove, right? That he didn't give me, but he loves me too much to take it away.
Yeah.
That's the only lever in my life that's big enough to force me out of isolation and into honest relationship with other members of the body of Christ. I don't have friends today because I wanted them. I didn't want friends. I wanted to I was so deep in shame, I just wanted to figure it out myself. I didn't want to need anybody. My life is so much richer. And once you start to confront this thing, and you do so with the help of other people, you'll find. I remember my first sponsor when he heard my first step, where I stumbled. I told my stumbling version of my sexual history. I told him, and I'm so covered in shame. It was such an ugly story. And I get done, and he says, Nate. He said, you know what your biggest problem is? Your biggest problem is you think sex is your problem. I didn't get it. He said, well, look, it's a problem. It's a big problem. You have to stop what you're doing, and you can't stop on your own. God's going to have to do it, and he'll probably use us in the process. But if you think that just stopping that behavior is going to fix you and make you happy, you're crazy. If anything, he said, if you do manage somehow by sheer force of will to stop that behavior and nothing else changes, you'll become more miserable and more miserable to be around than you are today. He said, but sex isn't your problem. Sex is your favorite solution. It's the medication you've been using all these years to numb the pain caused by your deeper problems. He said, Nate, you have much more healing and much more repenting to do than you know. So he said, as time goes by, he said, we'll be talking about wounds and trauma and pride and unbelief and fear and anger and resentment, self-pity and self-centeredness. He said, you're in for a full life makeover. Welcome to the great adventure.
Indeed. Well, and that is right. It's a symptom of something else. Everything is. It's something else we're trying to fix and figure out and fill up, and it works. It works. The reason we're tempted by things is because they work.
Temporarily.
But they don't last, and it always comes with darkness. Yeah. It never gives you never come out the other side going more refreshed. It's always that it was superficial, and it was candy, and I needed meat, and I understand that. Well, listen, for those who subscribe to Brad Stine Has Issues, and you go to bradstine.com and join the Militia of the Mind and the Mighty 10,000, it's $3 a month, and then you can join it. Where you get all my comedy online for free, and you can have access to special questions that I ask my guests, just one extra one that is only for those of you who subscribe. I am going to ask you one more question, and this will go for my special people who sign up. Not like you're better than others, but you're special. So what do you think was, because I got to give your wife a lot of credit.
Yeah.
My Lord. Yeah. For her to hang in there and to be amongst you with these numerous betrayals says a lot about her character, certainly. Because I'm sure a lot of women bailed, and frankly, the Bible says they have a right to.
They had every right to.
So tell me, what do you think your wife's greatest lesson was and what do you think was about her that gave her the strength and the temperament to endure this with you and walk through you with this? What was special about her that you think maybe other women could learn from? Because they might be in this situation going, I've been married 40 years. I'm not going to bail out now. Crap, this sucks. Help.
Yeah. Allie said that, because she gets asked this a lot, why did you stay? My wife, she said, I knew he was hurting. And we did have a decent foundation of friendship before I went off the rails. And she cared about me as a person. And she cared about the kids, and she was going to keep things together for them. She did tell me, later on, that for years after I fell asleep, she would put her hands on my chest and pray that God would make me into the man that he intended me to be. She's the hero of the story. She held, she protected my reputation. She had a lot to complain about, and she didn't. And she never badmouthed me to the kids. She was better in that way than I was. She was just a very good friend. I think she saw it. Now, I will tell you this. She reserved her right to leave. When I got into recovery, she was serious when she said, I'm done.
Yeah.
The kids were gone at that point. She had a life to live. She was skeptical. I'd turned over so many leaves, but they never stayed turned over. I'd made so many promises, never. She really didn't have any confidence that I would stick to recovery. I'm just fortunate that it stuck to me. And as she watched, she was never cruel. She remained civil. But I slept in a closet for a couple of years. And she watched. And when she began to get when she saw real fundamental change, which is what happens when you actually get in to start to do the work, then she found the confidence to re-engage. And today we're closer than we've ever been.
Well, and I honestly appreciate that she held you accountable.
Yeah.
So it wasn't as though she was a doormat or some buffoon that was just being played. She knew exactly what she was in for. She had made a much, much more courageous, beautiful, grace-driven choice that she didn't have to do. Jesus Christ said, if you want to leave, I'm good with that, because she broke it. And she said no. So that is a beautiful thing. And I'm not even saying if somebody left, either partner left because of betrayal, that they necessarily did something wrong. I mean, maybe that had to happen.
Not every marriage survives, and not every marriage should.
Yeah, probably not. Probably not. But you, you did it. You've got. I mean, and, you're still doing it. I'm sure you still get tempted. I mean, you are a human being, and something like that isn't going to just vanish completely. But boy, when it gets spaced out longer and longer and longer before you really, I gotta catch myself. It makes you feel good. I'm getting somewhere, and you need to learn to judge yourself where you've come, not necessarily where you are. Because man, if you were going to porn, 10 times a day, and you've got it down to once, that's actually a good thing. You're getting somewhere. And so, Samson Society is an amazing men's ministry that can help free you from this problem. And most every guy out there has it or has dealt with it on some degree. If you're a pastor, if you're a missionary, if you're an evangelist, if you're a guy that's in ministry who has something at stake and don't feel like there's a place to go maybe within your denomination or within, there's not some safe men's, and unfortunately, pastors sometimes have done that. They went out to a dude and he betrayed them. It's like, holy crap. So here's a place for them.
I would guess, we don't have any formal documentation of it. I would guess 15 to 20% of the guys in Samson have been or are in some sort of Christian ministry.
Right now. So
So lots of pastors or former pastors, missionaries, former missionaries, teachers in Christian schools, all that kind of stuff. And they've just been carrying this thing and fighting.
Yes.
And when they can finally find a place.
Yes. The greatest thing, honestly, the greatest thing is to be healed and to get intimate with your wife where it belongs. But to be able to finally say, this is my thing, and have guys go, it's all right.
Yeah.
You're not a freak. You're not weird. This is your thing. You're a man. This is your man thing.
Yeah.
This is your Achilles heel.
Yeah.
You go, I can't believe it. The enemy wants you to hang on to it so you feel alone. You don't go to the help that's out there,
right?
And to make you feel like you should be ashamed because you're a deviant. There's something wrong. Everybody else has got it but you, and that is the biggest lie of all.
It is, absolutely.
Well, folks, I appreciate you coming on. This is obviously a adult version of Brad Stine Has Issues, and we will make sure that we say that in the artwork that comes out. So those of you listening online knew that we're talking about something very mature, and so maybe this isn't a time to pick up the kids in the drive line at 3:30 and put on the Christian radio. This is one you might want to save for the adult time, but it's crucial. It's important. And Nate, thank you, brother, because you've been around and you've been so open about this thing, and I'm sure you're all way past being ashamed about your testimony because you've seen how healing it's been to other people. But still, 20-something years ago, you had to start having the courage to say, let me expose myself to you and face your potential wrath. And instead, you saw it as God saying, wait till you see what I do with this story.
That's right,
so
exactly.
God bless you. Folks, remember, this is what it means to be a disciple and a Christian. Be honest, be unapologetic, stand for the truth, shoot for what is right, do what is right, get on the boat. Don't talk about it. Don't talk about it. Get to Samson Society and start doing the work. That's what James is teaching us. Don't read James if you don't want to see how bad you are at being a Christian, because he always holds you accountable. Where's the fruit? Where's the fruit? Anybody can say it. I want to see that. And yeah, if you're a man, you should be held accountable. Don't talk about it. Go do it. Be a man. Be a warrior. Get to Samson Society. And once you start learning the way out, start one in your church. This is all about the community of church. And I'm guessing you probably have some large maybe gatherings, maybe of everybody now and again.
Oh, sure. Yeah, we do intensives throughout the year, and our big national retreat is the third weekend in November. We'll be outside of Fayetteville, North Carolina.
There you go. So that is what you have to look forward to. Folks, this is being a believer. If you're a woman, of course, there's a Sarah society that has that. And if you are a woman that's struggling with this, I guess the Sarah society,
they can point you in the right direction.
Okay, so they will get you that freedom too. So we didn't want to leave you out, but this was a man thing that we wanted to talk about, and that's what we did. Remember, your job as a Christian is to speak the truth at all times, including admitting that you're a sinner, because that's exactly what Christianity came to say is, yeah, I know you're a sinner. That's what Christ died for. So it's not something to be ashamed about. It literally proves that Christianity is true, because it admitted this is the struggle of humanity. You had to have God do the work for us, pay the price for us, but you have to commit your life to Christ, or you don't get in. But you can do it simply by his grace. Folks, if they ever say you're politically incorrect, always say thank you for the compliment. You don't want to follow Marxist ideology. You want to follow God's. And he says, speak truth at all times. We're the last truth tellers on earth. And this is Brad Stine Has Issues. This is Nate Larkin. And I am God's comic Brad Stine, doing what I always do, putting the woke back to sleep. See you next week.